Welcome to the Plant Spirit Herbalism Summit on the healing wisdom of herbs and plant consciousness. I'm your host, Sara Artemisia, and I am delighted to introduce our next guest to the show today. Kathleen Aspen is a nature intuitive, certified flower essence practitioner, host of the Flower Essence podcast and the Flower Essence Conference, and founder of Flora of Asia Flower Essences. Kathleen helps clients to overcome challenges, heal from traumatic experiences, and find a greater sense of connection to themselves and to nature. So Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I love your deep connection with the plants and the flowers and your rooted, really calming presence. And I'm curious, in your experience, how do the flowers and flower essences really support us in times of great change?
Wow. Such a big question that I'd like to try to let's see what we can coalesce into a little moment. Flower essences help us channel more of ourselves into our daily lives, into our path, into our experience. What I find working with clients that so often we have all of these, layers and life experiences and traumas and, generational and ancestral, all this stuff kind of gets layered on top of us. And the process of, unburying these imprints and energies allows us to fully embody who we are and bring more of ourselves into this walk of life. When we're constantly carrying these giant burdens on our shoulders and every interaction that we have is colored by a trauma or whatever else, life does not go well and we don't get the chance to do what we came here to do. And so essences, I found, are just like the most amazing way of helping us to release these burdens, to uncover the brilliance of our souls, of our spirits, and help us walk our path in the sense of alignment that doesn't happen without that clarity. Is that a good start, do you think?
Yeah, I think that sums it up really well. That last thing that you were just sharing about, that the alignment piece, how the essences really help us come into a sense of alignment. I feel that so deeply when working with essences. And I'm curious, in your experience, how do flower essences help us come into a state of presence, both with ourselves and with the earth, with the plants, with the moment?
Well, plants are never anywhere else. Right? They don't have a lot of chatter going on. They don't have a lot of stuff going on in their heads. They are grounded, right? They are the ultimate in grounded beings. So, you only have to spend a minute with a tree to realize that they are just rock solid and they're there and they are in that moment with you. And whatever that moment brings, it could be sunny and gorgeous. It could be stormy and crazy. It could be whatever. But the tree is with that moment, is present in that moment. And that's kind of the gift that plants can give us, is to help us just be, okay, this is where we're at. This is what's happening. This, just be in this place of accepting what is, and what we can change, but to be okay and not fighting it so much. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'd go with that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love that and completely agree that the plants are so present with the moment. They're so present with the moment. And one of the things that has been monumental in my journey, that my sense is also has been a huge part of your experience with plants as well, is this experience of working in co-creative partnership with them. And I was curious if you could share a bit about that. Like, what is your experience of working with the plants, with the flowers, in co-creative partnership in your life's work?
Mhm. Well, making essences is never because I want to, right? When you make an essence, it's not like, oh, I really want to make this. That's not how it works. You have to develop a relationship with the plant. For me, it's developing relationship with genus and species. Things, plants that I'm really, the whole families that I'm interested in, and then you just keep showing up. You keep showing up, and then there'll be that day where it's like, yeah, today's the day. And it's for me. So there's a lot of this um, framework and groundwork that you have to put in place, that you have to show yourself to be, that you keep your word, that you're honorable, that you stick to what you say you're going to do. And that process of co-creating with nature, it is a co-creation. It's not me, my intellect, my ego says, I'm going to do this today. It has to be with the full, wholehearted cooperation and engagement from the plant. And that's where the magic happens. And so it's my being. I have to be part of it. The plants don't have bowls, and they don't have hands, and they don't have bottles and all that. They need us to do the thing, to do the physical thing. But they're so involved in the whole process. They're so much a part of it. So it's like we're being their hands, we're being their feet, we're being the ability to bring their intelligence and their gift into more hands, into more expressions, into more we're like the pollinators, right? We're letting that energy go out through little bottles of essences.
Yeah, I love that you just shared that aspect of how we're like their hands, their feet, in my experience, the relationship with the plants and the flowers in terms of me and them working together is really similar actually to the relationship in my own experience between my own heart and my own brain, where
Mm.
the heart is such a vast organ of perception. uh, like the electromagnetic field of the heart is multiple times larger than that of the brain. And so when the heart perceives something and knows something to be true, in my experience, it's then the job of the brain to say, okay, now how do I execute this? Like if the heart's like, okay, here's something that needs to be done, it's like, okay, then the brain's like, okay, how do I execute that in physical reality? And in that same way with the plants, when I hear messages from them that are so clear, it's like, okay, well, I'm the one that can move around in 3D. And so I can actually bring this into manifestation or execute it in reality, which is just such a fun. I mean, it's very playful, I find very playful and just absolutely amazing to work in that way in this beautiful dance that you've described. And
Mm.
um, I know that one of the essences that is very dear to you in your work is Magnolia. And I'm curious if you could share a bit about what is the medicine and message of Magnolia in this time?
Mm. So I am completely in love with the Magnoliaceae, which is a plant family that is amazingly broad. There are many, many different species of magnolias. Magnolia was one of the very first flowering plants on the planet. The genus is 100 million years old. So they were around with the dinosaurs. They were around when the continents were not in their current shape. They were the initiators. And what they tell me is they're the initiators of bringing consciousness into form. That idea of creating a flower, like what an amazing idea. And to bring that ability of bringing that consciousness into the physical body, into the physical form, into this plane, they paved the way for that. And that 100 million years, it's unbelievable to think about that time frame. Modern humans, recognizable modern humans, 50,000 years. The pyramids of Giza are like 5,000 years old. Like it's incredible. And the magnolias were part of that flora that were all over the planet. This is not the flora we know today. And there are remnant populations of these original plants in places like China, because they were protected from these repeated glaciations of ice ages. And so these plants never stopped evolving. They never stopped being alive and bringing that message into this reality. It's just, oh, it's so amazing to me. And for those of us in the West, I'm in California and in the United States, there are also remnant populations in the South where you see the southern magnolia. But those are pieces of this ancient flora. And so it's to me, this concept of native is like native when, native where. And so for me, the magnolias just have this incredible ancient energy and wisdom. They've seen a few things, the 100 million years, they've seen a lot of change. They've seen the planet transform. They've seen the dinosaurs so long, they've seen us come along. They have this ability to help us come into our bodies, to anchor our spirits into this physical form and execute. Like, what are we here to do? Like, what's our purpose? Why are we here right now in this moment? And that for me is that gift of the magnolias. And then there are many different magnolia essences that I worked with and created or co-created, let's say. And they all have different pieces of that. But that is overall like why magnolias are so special and so interesting.
That is so cool to think about how there are these pockets around the planet that have essentially, in their biodiversity and in their expression of life, have been continuously evolving in life, like not under ice, continuously for the last 100 million years. That's incredible.
Yeah. It blows your mind, doesn't it?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. How did you, I know you do work a lot with essences from China and like a flora that are currently from China. How did you first start getting interested in that?
Yeah. My background, I have a degree in horticulture. I was always really interested in plants, and I worked as a garden designer for quite a few years before I moved from Southern to Northern California. And so the plants from China are just so much a part of horticulture. They're normal garden plants because they had been um, the European adventurers who went to China and brought back plants mostly to England and spread around Europe. These plants just became part of our culture. Like we love camellias and azaleas and so many of these plants that we grow in our gardens, for those of us who are into horticulture, came originally from China. And China has a profound and ancient gardening tradition that predates anything Europeans were doing. So there's a huge love of plants in the Chinese culture. And so I had this interest in Chinese plants just from growing them and being fascinated by them. And they're very flexible and adaptable. I think in part because a lot of them have these really old genetics, like they've been around, they can do these different things. They're like, yeah, sure, I can grow here. Why not? And so I became involved in a botanical garden here in Sonoma that is home to these wonderful wild sourced Chinese plants. The original director traveled to the wilds of China and brought back seeds and grew these plants. And these trips took place in coordination with places like Kew Botanical Garden and all sorts of really important places around the world, and grew these wild plants. And when I first started going to this garden, I was just like, oh my God. It's like I knew relatives of these plants, but now I was seeing them in their wild form. And I was just so compelled and realized that, nobody had made these as essences before. And I had the opportunity to do so. So that's been the work I've been doing since 2007.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool about the gardens. I didn't know that in Sonoma.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How did you first start getting interested in flower essences?
Oh, I'd have to say they just saved my life. There's no other way to say it. My background, I grew up in a fundamentalist doomsday cult, and the level of craziness that I was imprinted with as a child, it is very, very strong and very much very painful, and loaded me up with a ton of guilt and shame and feeling like there's something wrong with me. It was overwhelming. It was just overwhelming. And I started getting interested in, herbal medicine and different things, and that wasn't quite the right fit for me. And I realized flower essences really hit that sweet spot because there's no possible chance for you to do harm with them. And I'm an animal person, so I was interested in things I could use with my animals that would be safe and, harmless, right? I couldn't screw it up. And so I started using essences, and then years later I really connected to pine, box pine, and it just, engaging with it deeply and taking it just relieved me of this sense of, it was just a shadow on my heart that I felt like there was something wrong with me. And I just had this perpetual guilt over things that I had done that, I know weren't my fault. But I felt so bad about them. I felt so like there was something wrong, just deeply wrong. I was damaged. And having that essence just relieve that burden from my heart, oh my God, I need to know more. And so I started learning and started reading and studying, and took practitioner training with Jane Bell, and I got certified in 2007. And it's just been a lifesaver. And I love helping people who have these, this emotional level of suffering that no one can see, right? You walk through the world and you look fine, right? You can show up, you can do your job, you can engage, but inside it hurts all the time, and no one can see that, but the flowers can see that, and the flowers know what to do, and they can help you feel better.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, just so honor your journey with the life and with the flowers. Just incredible. And I think you touch on something really important there that's so relevant to what so many of us are experiencing right now, with just the chaos, the strife, all this intensity happening in the world right now. How, in your experience, can flower essences really help to shift some these heavy emotional states with yourself and or with clients?
Well, how they do it is a mystery, but they do it. So I think that what we can recognize is that plants have a different time frame than we have. They have this perspective, particularly, my dear friends, the magnolias. They have this perspective of having seen it all. They've stood steady and held the light through it all. And I too am, so deeply troubled. My ancestral heritage is right where the war is right now, and it's so profoundly troubling. And yet somehow I have to do my work. I have to get up and serve the people I serve, and take care of my own heart. And so engaging with essences, whichever ones call you the most. For me, I've got so many, but certainly the magnolias, they give me heart. They give me this, the magnolias speak to this, what in Chinese medicine is the corporeal soul, the po, the lung spirit. And they help you inspire, bring that energy into your body. The corporeal spirit is part of your incarnation energy. It helps you stay in your body, because if you're not in your body, you can't really function very well, and you tend to get spun out by things, you tend to get overwhelmed by things. Helping you come into your form, into your physical body. I sometimes tell my clients it's a little bit like, a raffle. You must be present to win. You have to come into your body and be here. And then, okay, now I know where I can go. Now my feet can walk down the path that's calling to me.
I love it. You just brought that up. You must be present to win. That's such a great analogy. And also the absolute vital importance of being present in the body, which I totally feel that with the essences too. Like working with the essences and then also just straight meditating with the plants. They really show me the utter importance and value, and also just how to be grounded in the body in a way that feels safe and calm and supported when the external reality might not be reflecting that. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear about your ancestors as well. It's just heartbreaking what's going on over there. And so often what I'm feeling and hearing from the plants on a daily basis right now is just the absolute utter importance of connecting in with the earth, with this sense of grounding, of inner stillness, of these larger cycles that you're talking about, these larger cycles of wholeness that Magnolia has witnessed, right? That like when we connect with the plants, particularly those who have witnessed these epic traumatic changes on the planet, like multiple times over, a changing of eons. Like Magnolia has been here through a changing of eons. And when we can connect with a consciousness or an experience, or just recognizing like literally the DNA of this being has been here through these epic changes, that this can help bring some sense of like an inner stillness, an inner calm through the storm, kind of almost like the eye of a hurricane kind of a thing. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, they teach us how to root. They teach us how to really connect into that soil, that Gaia connection, that ability to really put our feet down and go from there. Because if you're not connected, if you're not rooted in, off you go. you're not able to be really with whatever's happening. And so helping you feel safe in the body, you mentioned that, and that's so important, because so many times people don't feel safe in their body, and that's why they left in the first place. I mean, it could be shock and trauma that causes the spirit to kind of rise up and out, but a lot of us just don't generally have a sense of being safe. And so it's kind of contrary to think sometimes of coming into your body to be safe, but that's really the pathway. And so helping people with that, feeling safe, feeling like the body is a safe place for my spirit to rest, is oftentimes the first step to helping all of the other things resolve. It really does come first, but it's not a forced situation. It's not like, I have to stuff you into your body kicking and screaming. It's like, you have to soften into the body. You have to soften into the space of like, okay, it's okay for me to be here right now. And this gentle, holding that inner child, that baby infant part of yourself safe into this physical womb, this body in which we inhabit and we ensoul. That's so much the work, is to help you feel like you could do that. Like it's okay to do that. And it could be a process.
Yeah, sometimes a lifetime.
No kidding.
So important, so important. And clearly you're so deeply connected with the flowers and the plants in your work. I'm curious, how would you say that the plants really support you in your life's work?
Oh gosh, they're so deeply woven. It's hard to tell where I stop and they begin. They support me in every single way. I think that if we stop thinking of ourselves as separate from nature, the Enlightenment period, when we decided that body and soul didn't have a relationship and everything was out there, and those things could be defined and broken down and into their component parts, and there was no life in there, and there was only some sort of life that we didn't really worry about. We are nature. We are connected. It's only an illusion that we think that we are not. And breaking down that illusion, that the planets are over here and I'm over here, it's like they're within you, they're inside you, they become you. You eat them, you take their essences, they are you. And recognizing that and being open to that wisdom that they offer when we open that door just a little bit for us. We just have to open it a little bit, and they're just like, yeah, let's do this now. We want to be part of your life, we want to be part of your experience. They're waiting, they're ready for you, they're ready to support you all the time.
Amazing. Kathleen, thank you so much. And so tell us, how can people find out more about you and your work?
Yeah. Well, so my website, floraofasia.com, is a good place to learn about these magnolias, see pictures. I love to take images so that I can bring that experience of being in that presence of the plant right into your screen, whatever screen you're looking through. You can also learn more on the Flower Essence podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, and the upcoming Flower Essence conference. So lots of possibilities for learning more about essences and engaging and being part of the Flower Essence family.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kathleen. Just so wonderful to have you here today, to connect, to learn more about your deep love and connection with the plants and flowers. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I'm delighted to be a part of this group of green hearts.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in.